You know, when we think about philosophy, we usually picture this noble quest for wisdom, right? A tool to help us figure out the world and ourselves. But what if that exact same tool, the one that's supposed to bring us all this clarity, could actually lead us somewhere else entirely, to a kind of profound emptiness? That's the journey we're going to explore today.
Wow, okay, so that's a pretty intense way to kick things off, isn't it? But it's the core idea from the article we're looking at. The warning is basically this. When you start questioning everything, you might just end up questioning the very things that give your life meaning. And that, well, that can be a really dangerous game.
But before we get to the scary part, let's talk about the promise. Because this journey almost always starts with a feeling of real awakening. It's like you've been given this powerful new way of seeing the world, like someone just turned on the lights for the very first time.
And the tool that really gets the ball rolling is something called first principles thinking. So instead of just accepting things as they are, tradition, what success looks like, the role of money, you start asking why. Why is this a thing? What is its most basic, fundamental truth? It's like you become a detective of reality itself. And when you start thinking like this, the benefits are immediate and, honestly, pretty powerful. All of a sudden, you start seeing the patterns in history. You get why people do the things they do on a much deeper level. You can spot what our source calls society's abstract traps, these ideas like desire or success that we all chase without really asking why. Your judgment gets sharper. You feel kind of intellectually invincible.
Now this leads to the first major, and I mean major, mental shift. You start moving away from thinking in black and white. You realize that so much of what we call reality is built on different perspectives, on social constructs, on subjective truths. There isn't just one universal right way to see the world.
In this example just illustrates that point perfectly. For the murderer's mother, her truth, her entire world is about protecting her child. But for the victim's mother, her truth is about getting justice. Both of these are incredibly powerful, completely valid perspectives that come from their own reality. So, who's right? Philosophy starts to suggest that maybe that's the wrong question to even ask.
Okay, so this brings us to the next stage of the journey. That same amazing tool that brought you all this clarity about the outside world, well, now it turns inward. You start to deconstruct your own life, your own motivations.
And this is where things can get a little heavy. The questioning starts to chip away at the big concepts we hold on to. You start to wonder, is life fundamentally just suffering? And is what we call happiness really just a temporary break, a fleeting distraction from that fact? I mean, these are not comfortable questions to sit with.
So the spiral of questioning begins, and it usually starts with something practical. You look at your job, your career, your daily grind, and you just ask, why? Why am I really doing this? Is this for me? Or is it for some idea of success that someone else gave me? Then it gets deeper. You start to question your own free will, your agency. How much of my life is actually me making a choice, and how much of it is just me being pulled along by the current, by habit, by culture, by my own unconscious programming? And then, boom, the spiral hits the biggest target of all, meaning itself. What if this whole search for a purpose in life, what if that's just another one of those abstract traps? Just a story we tell ourselves to make it all bearable. And that, my friends, can be a truly terrifying thought. So what happens when you've questioned everything? When all the structures and beliefs you used to lean on have been deconstructed? Well, the result often is this profound feeling of emptiness. There's just nothing left to hold on to.
And it's really important to get this next part. The author makes it super clear that this feeling, this depression, wasn't born from being negative or pessimistic. It came from the sheer mental exhaustion of overthinking, of taking every single thing apart until there was nothing left.
And then, a breakthrough. A moment of real clarity piercing through the fog. The big realization was this. I've been stuck in survival mode my whole life, always thinking that my real life would start after something else. After college, after I get that promotion. But that's the trap. Life isn't the destination. It's happening right now in this moment.
This new insight brings a huge shift in perspective. So instead of just looking inward and spiraling, you start to look outward. You start observing how everyone else is dealing with this stuff. How do other people manage to carry this same existential weight every day?
And you start to see these patterns, these 4 key strategies people use. Some people turn to religion and its rituals, which gives a kind of structure and higher purpose to suffering. Others pour their energy into relationships and family, creating a powerful reason to live that's outside of themselves.
Some find a quiet peace in the process of fulfilling work. And of course, a lot of us just use addictions and distractions to avoid asking these hard questions in the first place.
So after this whole emotional and intellectual roller coaster, from that high of total clarity down to the low of absolute emptiness, and then back up to this new understanding, what's the final takeaway? After all that noise, what's the one single truth that stands out? Well, after filling up notebooks, devouring philosophers from Nietzsche to Camus, and even having long chats with AI, most of those thoughts just kind of faded. They were temporary. But there was one idea, one single quote that just stuck.
And there it is. This is really the heart of the whole thing. We all know that classic philosophical idea, the unexamined life is not worth living. We have to think about things. But this adds a crucial modern warning. There's a limit. If you push that examination too far, the tool you're using to find clarity becomes the very source of your suffering. It's all about finding that balance.
And so, that leaves us and you with the final really important question that we all have to figure out for ourselves. We know we need to reflect. We need to examine our lives. But where do you draw the line? At what point does healthy self-reflection tip over into a destructive spiral of overthinking? Finding that line, well, maybe that's the real wisdom.